Hello, Chaos Cat Gaming, and I'm going to show you how to go from this to that. Now, if you're anything like me, you probably thought something like this when Oppie told you to get ready. Whew, that was a fun ride. Alright, what's next, Oppie?
Nice work out there.
Thank you.
The sector stabilizers are fully operational. You've got a straight shot toward the expansion wall.
Heck yeah.
One more thing. You may want to consider armoring up a bit. Once you cross that wall, the mid-zone is another beast altogether.
I don't need to armor up. Look at me. I'm near full health. Your challengings mean nothing to me. But I'm gonna tell you right now, not a good idea. So, to start off with, let's go over the soft and squishy upgrades. And by soft and squishy, I mean the player upgrades. You can find the unlock for the player upgrade in here, in the first tab of the research tree. It's this one right here. And it gets you this. This gets you all of the player unlocks. I would advise you go ahead, take a look through there, and go ahead and get as much of this as you can. I would primarily advise getting the medium backpack as well as any radiation resistance, so that you can manage to afford. Everything else is still useful, and so you don't have to pick between like one item versus a different item. So you can wear both the sweater and the parka at the same time. You don't have to pick between them. Radiation and bigger backpack is what I'd advise most, but getting everything is useful in the long run. Next up on the list of things, you probably saw it in the intro, but I have racks on the car. I'd recommend getting a bunch of these. The roof rack is optional, but it's not terribly expensive. But if you are lacking in resources, don't worry about it. The racks go here on the car as well as into the seat. Single purchases, so you don't have to worry about repairing them. So, go ahead. Oh yeah, I will try to keep the video down to primarily just the upgrades about the car and the player. If you're needing tips, go check out the video up in the top right corner. Now then, continuing on with the outside of the car, you don't want your car to look like this. You want to have a nice shiny car. So, you should know by now where the upgrade panels are, but especially if you follow the video. But in here, this tab, go to here. Again, I would recommend you prioritize getting the radiation resistance. However, the lead panels are harder to get a hold of than the electrical panels. So if you are lacking in lead platelets, go ahead and get the insulated panels, insulated stuff. So first off, with doing the big panel upgrades, rip everything off. With ripping everything off, you turn on one of the settings in one of the gameplay settings to hot swap. I'd advise that because it just makes swapping over easier, faster, less of a mess. So here are the body parts. I like having a mix of both. Personally, I'd advise a mix of both of them, but it's up to you what exactly mix you have on. In general, I'd say that the radiation is your bigger threat. Go ahead and build your upgraded doors and panels, and go ahead and swap them out. The layout I like to have is I tend to have the radiation up front and the insulated in the back, but that's just me. Once your body is all nice and upgraded, go ahead and make sure that your bumpers are upgraded. What you want to do is make sure you come over into here, click on the door icon, and then you just find the bumpers here. Again, you can only get one of them. This one gives you electricity resistance, but with additional health, but you lose the impact resistance from this one. So if you have a problem with electricity, I'd say go with that one. If not, go with this one. However, you want to only build one of those because you want to go ahead and you want to, if you have not already, all the way down here at the second to last tab, all the way down here at the end is the impulse emitter. it takes up one of your bumper slots, so you can only have one bumper. I highly advise getting to the Olympus emitter because it will cause anything that grabs onto your car to release. And trust me, there's a whole lot more things in the mid-zone to grab onto you. Now let's go ahead and throw those on. Now then, continuing on in the utility tabs, once you have the Olympus emitter installed, I would advise you also get the auto parker. It will automatically turn on and off your parking brake when you get in and out of the car, in case you forget about it. However, if that's not a problem, in the utility tab, you could instead go for the jump jack. It will launch your car up into the air. However, it will do some damage to your car. It'll help with evasive maneuvers in case you have to jump over a saw blade, a tree trunk, and whatever else you may end up running across while you're out on the road. I personally don't use it because I have issues trying to get the parking brake to work, so I don't have a ton of experience with the jump jacks, but if you don't need the auto parker, give it a try, and go ahead and post a comment on how well it worked. You will eventually have to get it anyways to get the rest of the upgrades, but don't worry about those for now. I would recommend only taking one or the other, not both, because there are other things that you could put into your seats. I tend to walk around with having the auto parker installed, so I already have that in here. I like having that on the right side, and because I like something else on the left. Now then, with driving around, you generally don't want to have to worry too much about fuel, so in the other seat spot, I like to have the backseat tank. It increases the capacity of your fuel by about 50%. It is in the back seat, so it tends to be fairly well protected against anything, and you can fuel it up at the same time as fueling up your regular tank. It helps to remove some of your stress about having to deal with about worrying about having to try to find any gas while you're out on the road. I like having the backseat tank just on this side with the fuel tank just for myself. And you can see like that this had been full before I put that in. But let me go ahead and fill this up. Put that up. And now that that's full, this has now filled up as well. And that is all of the upgrades on the inside of the car taken care of. Next up, we will start with the racks. Starting off with the upgrade that I most recommend getting, due to the fact that this last zone right here is every time I have looked at it, always has the eerie darkness debuff on it, which means that light source is your big problem. We'll come back here to your lighting tab, which is your 4th tab. And you want to go ahead and make sure that you have the headlight. Unfortunately, you can't get either any of the other better lights than just the basic headlights, as well as getting the side floodlight. We'll go ahead and build and install your headlights as well as the side floodlight. And I will show you where you should install the side floodlight. Now then, assuming that the car is the same in all versions of the game, I would highly recommend you install the floodlights on your left side of the car. And if they are different, install them on whichever side of the car happens to be the driver's side, because that side is the side that you tend to be able to see the easiest out of. All right. Well, now we have all of these things that use up so much power. The floodlight uses power, the headlight uses more power, the radio, the dome light, the auto breaker, the Olympus emitter, they all use power. So, let's go fix that, shall we? So back in here, back at the research tab, the 3rd to last tab will be all of your power upgrades. Now, so like the fuel tank, there is a version of it that you can put in the back seat. So if you don't want either the auto parker or the jump jacks, you can go ahead and put a giant battery back there. However, I personally, because I have the backseat fuel tank and the auto parker, I use the side battery. However, the side battery just gives you upgraded storage capacity. There are better ways of getting power than just the battery jumper. There is the plasma charger, but you won't get that until the mid-zone. You have 3 options of generating power before you are in the mid-zone. There is the mini turbine that I would most recommend. It generates power while the car is driving and based on how windy it is. So any storm will cause it to run at full strength. Next is the hydro generator, which generates 0.135 kilowatts per second of energy, but only while it is raining. So it produces more power than the wind turbine, but it works far less often. And finally, we have the power generator that I would recommend the least, even though it does generate the most amount of power, which is the lightning rod. If you want to use it, I will show you how I would recommend you use it. But the lightning rod does not make you immune to lightning, and if anything, it actually makes you more susceptible to lightning. However, even with that downside, it does generate a whopping half kilowatt of energy each time you get struck by electricity, so maybe you will decide that the damage is worth the energy. Let's go ahead and build those, shall we? So now that you have all those power things unlocked, come over here to the to the battery icon, which is the fourth to last one. Make whichever extra battery you want. I like this side battery. You guys can pick whichever one you want. And I recommend the mini turbine. So I'd advise you to go ahead and build the side battery. However, note that building the batteries will use the lead platelets, the same thing that you use for the radiation, the lead plated panels. So be careful when you are building to not go through all of your panels while building the plates. The side battery will put you back 8 plastic, 2 chemicals, 6 copper wires, and 8 platelets. Whereas with a capacity of 35, however, the lead acid battery, which goes into your backseat, has a capacity of 30, with the same amount of. Yeah, so even further, I'd recommend, with looking at the actual cost, even further, I would recommend you not use the lead acid battery, because the lead acid battery takes up takes up a seat rack, which you have far less of them. It has less capacity than the side battery, and it will put you back 10 plastic, 4 chemicals, 8 wires, and 12 lead platelets. So that's worse than the side battery. So unless you're really wanting to put something else other than a battery in one of your 4 side slots, I'd highly recommend the side battery over the lead acid. However, next, to help with your decision on which power source you want to pick, or if you want to pick several, the lightning rod is 2 scrap, 12 wire, and 6 electronics. The mini turbine is 4 scrap, 2 wire, and a circuit board, which is 6 plastic, 2 wire, and 4 electronics. However, in my experience, it is on almost all the time. So, might be a bit more expensive, but it is pretty consistently giving you some small degree of energy. And then the hydro generator, which, as you can see, I've never even bothered making, takes 2 scrap metal, 6 plastic, 2 copper wires, and 6 electronics. While the mini turbine I think, is the most expensive one, I do also think it's the best one. But you guys can make your own. But you guys can use your own best judgment on which power source you want. Now let's go get these bad boys installed. Now, just personal preferences for ease of my use, I like having the wind turbine on the right side and the side battery over here on the left, above the gas cap. So when I come out here, so I have an easy way to check what my battery usage is at when I come out here to refuel my gas. Of course, there is an indicator on the inside of the car as well to see how much gas you have, or how much power you have, but that might not always be accurate, depending on what quirk you have. Now then, you may ask, what do we want to do with this last side panel? Honestly, realistically, you can do whatever you want with it. However, I would highly recommend you build one of these bad boys, researched in the 5th to last tab, the side storage. Because it is the only storage upgrade for the car that you can make. Now, with making that, for whatever reason, it is in the 2nd to last tab in the utilities tab, even though it's in a different tab in the research tree. The side storage is fairly cheap. It's just 2 scrap, 4 duct tape, and 12 fabric. And the side storage, as the name implies, is storage on your side. Right. So the side storage is only about half the capacity of the level 1 boxes in the back. However, it is useful because A, it's extra storage space, and B, most of the upgrades that use the unstable power all use resources that are new to the mid-zone. So having extra storage space for your drive will be extra useful. Because you're going to want to grab as many of those new resources as you can, so you can be able to build all of the new stuff once you get in. So if you haven't done so already, I would make sure to go ahead and get all of your tires upgraded onto to the off-road tires. However, if you followed my tips and tricks, you will already have that. And now, lastly, we now have the good tires, got all the body replaced, got our power taken care of, got storage, got lights. We're good to go, right? No. The zone is an unforgivable place. You might not always be able to get the resources that you need while inside, so it is highly advisable that before you go out into the zone, you want to make sure that you are stocked up on repair items. So have a stack of repair putty for repairing the cars in case you can't get enough chemicals, battery jumpers for when you run out of electricity, and electrician's kits for if you have to repair an electrical device on your car, as well as periodically find electrical doors that need them, but nah. Additionally, you want to make sure that you have at least a stack of first aid kits on you for, well, first aiding. The mechanic, sealing, and light replacement kit are all fairly easy to get. The mechanic kit and sealing kit you can get to these supplies for just from scrapping down a couple of cars. The light replacement kit is a little bit more tricky, and I go into depth about how to get the bulb in the tips video. And now that you have all of your repair kit taken care of for both car and player, you need to make sure that you want pretty much all of this. The hand vac is the most important item to make absolutely certain that you have, because as far as I've run into, most new resources in the mid-zone need the hand vac to be able to really pick them up. You can pick them up without it, but it is like 5 times slower, if that fast, to harvest the resources by hand than it is by the hand vac. And the Liberator, I like having a Liberator on hand in case I run into any of the armored cars. But it does take some thermal sap, which is in limited supply until you get into the mid-zone, so bring it. So that's an optional extra item to bring along if you have the extra crystals to make it. If not, I wouldn't worry too much about not having it. Yeah. Additionally, I'd recommend taking a very underrated tool, which is this guy. Because it would suck if your first time into the middle zone was unproductive because you happen to have the debuff that makes the location of the nodes not show up on your map. And finally, probably the most important thing that can absolutely make your run several times harder than it needs to be is working out how to use the Tinker Station. Because there is one quirk that will mess up your day, and the easiest way to check it is you don't want to worry about the first 2 tabs. So just pick whatever you want in the first 2 tabs. You want to see if you just have something affecting it. So in the 3rd tab, go to headlights, and you want to run checks to see if something dims or flickers the headlights, but particularly dims, because the dim will take the headlight all the way down to nothing. So once you check it, just say yes. As I explained in the tips video, I think, of how to do this. I have something that's affecting the headlights. So if you have this quirk, even if you just have something that's affecting the headlights, you want to make sure that you work out what it is and you take care of it. Because with that last zone being eerie darkness, not being able to see is really, really frustrating. And it's never daytime in that zone, so you can't just wait for the right time. Oh, right, I was gonna show how to properly use the, this guy. With the lightning rod, the way to be able to best use the lightning rod to make sure that your car takes the least amount of damage is to go ahead and swap it out with the side that has the mini turbine. Either the mini turbine or swap out the side floodlights, because the side floodlights are primarily used for that last zone. And put it on the side, depending on how you want to decide you want to lay out your car. If you don't lay it out like I did, you want to make absolutely certain that whatever panel is underneath it is the insulated panel, because even though it is the lightning is going to be drawn to the lightning rod, it's also going to be hitting the panel underneath the lightning rod. So your best bet of being safest is to have the insulated panel underneath the rod, so it will take less damage from when you get hit with electricity. However, what you could do is if you really aren't sure about it, you can go ahead and throw that into your storage. In fact, all of your utility things you can take out and throw into storage except for this one. And with that, you are ready to go out on your zone. If you enjoyed, go ahead and check out the video on the right to watch more of my content. And over on the left is content that YouTube has picked out just for you to enjoy watching. If you enjoyed, go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you are so inclined.